Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome back to the fall campaign for Arkham Horror, the card game. We picked up two experiences as we opened the path to Carcosa last week in Return to Blackstar's Rise, and we picked up another two from our Carcosa-themed Curse of the Rougarou with Jester. I was intending to download the video and re-upload it with my intro, but I decided that was going to be too much work and I couldn't do it anyway. So I provided a link to that playthrough in the playlist for this campaign, so you'll be able to go and check that out. With the 4 experience, lightning quick on the upgrade front, Jacqueline's going to clear her mental trauma per my house rule, and Mandy's going to sit tight on her 4 experience. Now this week we're set for all-out war with the King in Yellow himself as we face the final scenario of the fall campaign, Return to Dim Carcosa. First up, let's set the scene.
Scenario 8, Dim Carcosa. Check campaign log. If you open the path below, read intro 1. If you open the path above, skip to intro 2.
Checking the campaign log, we opened the path below, so intro 1.
Intro 1. You swim to the edge of the water and throw yourself upon the rocky shore, gasping for air. You lie there for some time, utterly exhausted. Every muscle in your body aches. Before you lies a desolate expanse of plain. In the distance, the alien spires of a warped city rise into the clouds. Behind you, the dark surface of the lake from which you'd emerged reflects the glare of 2 suns. When you peer back into the murky depths, you see no sign of the chapel where you'd made the leap, or of Mont Saint-Michel, or even of Earth. This is Carcosa, the realm of madness in the stars, where Hastur reigns supreme. Skip to setup.
Of course, we did everything for setup last night, so we'll have more details on that as they become relevant. Our lead actually, next up, let's take a look at our tarot reading. But before we get into that, I should mention that defeat by sanity is not going to be a thing in this scenario. So we'll be able to take sanity, we'll be able to continue taking sanity damage past our maximum sanities. We'll come back to that point, though. So as part of setup last night, both of our ladies took half their sanity, aka 4, as horror. So yeah, we're off to a pretty rough start there, but no help for it. Next up, let's remind everyone of what the tarot reading was. On the good side, we left the Devil 15. Each investigator will have 1 additional slot of a type chosen by that investigator when the game begins. We'll set that up when we go into the actual start of the game. And on the bad side, we flip the star 17. After an investigator reveals a tentacle token during a skill test, they take either 1 damage or 1 horror. I think technically it's called the auto-fail, so that's why it's an auto-fail. Just so we have that clear on that front. Now we'll take a look at Jacqueline's hand. I'll take a look at starting hands. Jacqueline will once again be our starting investigator, and the only thing missing from this starting hand, I really like it a lot. The only thing that would make this hand hum is Twila, but we'll get into that in a second. So first up, we have a copy of Shriveling level 5. 3 cost to play, will, 2 combat on commit. Uses 4 charges. As an action, spend a charge to fight, using will instead of combat, +3 will and deal +2 damage for the attack. But if you pull a bad symbol, take 2 horror. Then Clairvoyance level 5. 4 cost to play, will, 2 lore on commit. Uses 3 charges. As an action, spend a charge to investigate, using will instead of lore. +3 will for the investigation, and discover 2 additional clues if you succeed. But if you reveal a good symbol, take 2 horror. Then an Arcane Initiate level 3. 0 cost to play, will, combat on commit. Forced, after she enters play, place a doom or 2 horror on her. As a fast action, exhaust Arcane Initiate, searching the top 3 cards of your deck for a spell and draw it, shuffling your deck. 1 health, 3 sanity on soak. And 2 copies of Spectral Razor. Fight plus will for the attack. Immediately before this attack, you may engage the attacked enemy. This attack deals +1 damage, +2 instead if the enemy is non-elite. As for Mandy's opening hand, what we have in here, I'm not as happy with Mandy's hand, but it's probably still workable. First up, we have Strange Solution Acidic Ichor. 2 combat on commit, 1 cost to play. Researched uses 3 supplies. As an action, spend a supply to fight, attacking with a base combat of 6 and the attack deals +2 damage. Then we have an Occult Lexicon level 3, 2 cost to play, 2 lore on commit. Limit 1 per deck. Reaction: when you play a copy of Bloodrate, either change each 2 on it to a 3, or shuffle it into your deck instead of discarding it. Forced: after Occult Lexicon enters play, search your bonded cards for 3 copies of Bloodrate, add 1 to your hand, and shuffle the other 2 into your deck. You handle this one. Fast: play after you draw a non-peril encounter card before resolving that card's effects. Choose another investigator. That investigator is considered to have drawn that encounter card instead, gain a resource. And 2 copies of Research Librarian. 2 cost to play, agility on commit. Reaction: after it enters play, search your deck for a tome asset and add it to your hand. Shuffle your deck. First up, and now we'll take a look at the Act and Agenda deck. So first up, the Act, or Agenda. Agenda 1A, Madness Coils. And now, far away, over leagues of tossing cloud waves, I saw the moon dripping with spray and beyond. The towers of Carcosa rose behind the moon. Robert W. Chambers, in the Court of the Dragon, the King in Yellow. The King in Yellow cannot be defeated. Forced: if there's at least 3 per investigator or 6 damage on the King in Yellow, advance this agenda. And our starting act. Act 1A, in Lost Carcosa. You have opened the path to Carcosa in order to stop those who wish to free the King in Yellow from his prison in the stars. Only you can put an end to this madness. Objective: when the investigators have collected the requisite number of clues, they must immediately spend them and advance, and we need 4. Last up, the ladies will move over to the map, so let's join them there. As you might see here, every single location is loaded up with clues. That's because they all have story text on the other side, and we flip that over as a fast action. But getting a little bit ahead of myself there, because the ladies opened the path below, they actually start at the shores of Holly. Also, I forgot to mention before we get into the map too much further, 7 doomed to advance the agenda, but we start off with 1 because we only had 6 tally marks on Chasing the Stranger. That changes based on the number of times you're able to defeat the Man in the Pallid Mask. So let's take a look at our starting location. The shores of Holly. 3 shroud, 4 clues. Along the shores, the cloud waves break. The twin suns sink behind the lake. The shadows lengthen in Carcosa. Robert W. Chambers, the King in Yellow. I'll go through each individual location as we move into them since they're all revealed, unless there's something in particular that's relevant to a connection. But there's nothing relevant here, so I think with that, we're all set to get into the game. So we're about to declare start of game, which means no more speaking the unspeakable. As for the Devil 15, an extra slot, Jacqueline is going to take an extra arcane slot, and Mandy's going to take an extra hand slot. So now we're all set to get started. Jacqueline is our lead investigator once again. She'll be our first player for this round as well, and we'll start off in her play area. Seeing as we need those clues right off the bat, I'm going to spend 4 resources for her first action to play out her copy of Clairvoyance, as we saw in her opening hand. I'm only going to grab 2 charges for it, because her action 2 is going to be to investigate, and I'm going to throw her special ability behind this. So she's an 8 to 3, she's up 5. One, two, three. Also, as I mentioned at the top of the scenario, defeat by sanity is not a thing, but I'll explain how that'll affect us once somebody clears their maximum sanity. So first token up on this clairvoyance test for Jacqueline. is a skull. Next up, a cultist, and a 0. So I'll cancel the skull and the cultist, and I'll grab 3 of those clues off of the location. Mandy can probably get the last one pretty easily. And then for action 3, Jacqueline will take one of her resources back. That way we're all set, barring anything crazy to play Shriveling next turn. That will do it for Jacqueline. Let's bring Mandy over to our play area and Exhausting Ancestral Knowledge on the way. Exhausting Ancestral Knowledge on the way over gives Mandy Eureka. Will, lore, or agility on commit. If this skill test is successful, the investigator performing this test searches the top 3 cards of their deck for a card, draws it, and shuffles their deck. For action 1, Mandy's going to investigate up to trying to get that last clue, which will immediately advance the act, but I'm kind of okay with that right now. -2 gets her the last clue, which we immediately have, and now that we have 4 clues, we immediately spend them to advance the act. So those go there, and we'll see what we've got here. His final bow. A shadow creeps along the wall beside you, and your heart leaps into your throat. You turn, and a figure flits away just out of sight. Either your mind is playing tricks on you, or someone else is in the theater. You follow the direction of the shadow, rounding a nearby corner. At the far end of the hall, he stands awaiting you. The man who wears the pallid mask. The stranger whose steps have haunted you for so many weeks. You remember that you have been here before. The theater dissolves around you. The bright glare of 2 suns pierce into your eyes from above. Do you remember now? He asks. He turns and vanishes into the ether, as if taunting you to follow. Spawn the set-aside Man in the Pallid Mask enemy at the Palace of the King. We'll take a look at the Man in the Pallid Mask. 434, spawn location farthest from all investigators, except the act specified the Palace of the King. Aloof. As an action, investigate. Your location gets +2 shroud for this investigation. If you succeed, instead of discovering clues, defeat the Man in the Pallid Mask. Indeed, it's time. We have all laid aside disguise but you. Robert W. Chambers, the Mask, the King in Yellow, taking a horror on attack. We're dealing a horror on attack. So now let's go through our new act. Search for the Stranger, version 3. It is finally time to confront the stranger and learn the truth about his identity, once and for all. Each investigator can't discover clues. The Man in the Pallid Mask can't be defeated except by damage. Objective: when the Man in the Pallid Mask would be defeated by damage, advance. Alright, so now we need to go after the Man in the Pallid Mask, which will probably be easy enough to deal with. That was action 1 to get the last clue. Action 2 will be to spend... What do we want to do with this? He's a 4. We'll actually spend 2 resources to play out the Occult Lexicon. So we'll go get her copies of Bloodright. Actually, we could flip over the Shores of Holly as a free action, and we might do that. Bloodright, 0 cost to play, will, lore, combat on commit. Bonded with Occult Lexicon, draw 2 cards, discard up to 2 cards from your hand. For each card thusly discarded, you may either gain a resource or spend a resource to deal 1 damage to an enemy at your location, and this doesn't provoke attacks of opportunity. Okay, but I will go ahead and flip over the Shores of Holly as a free action. So we'll flip this over to find. Actually, no, I'm not going to flip that just yet, even though I kind of got to look at it, but we haven't gone through it, so I definitely am going to wait on that. Action 3 will take us over to the map. Action 3, Mandy will move up to the Bleak Plains with a shroud of 4 and 2 clues on it, which we can't discover yet. Bleak Plains. While you're at Bleak Plains, you can't play ally assets. On every side of me stretched a bleak and desolate expanse of plain, covered with a tall overgrowth of serried grass, which rustled and whistled in the autumn wind. Ambrose Bierce, an inhabitant of Carcosa. So yeah, we need to make a beeline for the man in the pallid mask, but that was all 3 of Mandy's actions. That will do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, the man in the pallid mask is not a hunter. He's at the Palace of the King. So we'll flip everything over. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Jacqueline gains 1 resource and goes to 3. Mandy gains 1 and goes to 4. Jacqueline draws. Read the signs. 2 cost to play. Will, lore on commit. Investigate plus will for the investigation. You may ignore any effect or keyword on your location which would trigger during this investigation. If you succeed, discover 1 additional clue at your location. Mandy draws. Another blood right. That's just beautiful. That's unexhausted. Mythos phase, we put our second doom on the agenda. Remember, we were at 1 because we started with 1 on the agenda. Jacqueline draws. Spawn of Holly, 442. Prey most horror. Retaliate. Forced. After you successfully evade Spawn of Holly by 2 or less, take 1 horror. Fortunately, he's not a retaliator, but Jacqueline needs to get away from him ASAP. Mandy draws. Creature out of Demi. 542. Spawn depth of Demi. Massive. Forced. When creature out of Demi's location or connecting location is flipped over, if it's ready, it attacks each investigator at that location. So that goes up there. Rather problematic investigation phase, or rather problematic mythos phase. So Jacqueline now needs to try to get away from that, but before we leave the mythos phase, Mandy will exhaust ancestral knowledge to draw another card. She will draw the Eye of Truth. This will be handy for skill tests. 4 wild card on commit, and if it's on a treachery and the test is successful, add that treachery to the victory display and attach the Eye of Truth to it. While attached, the Eye of Truth contributes its skill icons to all tests on copies of the attached treachery. I forgot to mention the Spawn of Holly does 1 damage and 2 sanity on attack, so we're probably going to need to try to get away from that pronto, which I think is where the investigation phase will start, and Jacqueline will head down to her play area. Action 1, Jacqueline's going to try to evade the Spawn of Holly at even, which is why I'm throwing her special ability behind this as well. I am going to have to, this is going to be a 1 horror attack, but I need to get away from this guy. And 2, 3. Alright. Token 1. There's a -1, that's not good. Token 2, another -1, and no whammy, no whammy, no whammy. -3, we got whammied hard. So we fail to evade the Spawn of Holly. Crud. Action 2, we gotta try it again, because I know there are tokens in there that'll get us away from this guy. Skull is not one of them, though. skull is -2, -4 instead if you have no sanity remaining. So that's a good time to talk about what happens when we're past our maximum sanity. So once we get clear of our maximum sanity, we'll be considered to have no sanity remaining, but we'll still be able to participate in the scenario. So yeah, Jacqueline is not able to get away from the spawn of Holly. Action 3. Do I take an attack of opportunity? I think I might have to take an attack of opportunity to move over to the map. I don't like doing this, but I don't have a choice. So Jacqueline is going to take an attack of opportunity for 1 and 2 to move up to the Bleak Plains and join Mandy, where she's not ready to deal with enemies, unfortunately. That's it for Jacqueline. Mandy, however, is going to play, for action 1, she's going to play her first copy of Bloodright, and she's going to use it as a 2. So first card up so we'll draw 2 cards. First card up is another Bloodright, that's very helpful, and an Eon Chart level 4. 2 costs to play, Lore, Agility, Wildcard on commit. Uses 3 charges. As a fast action during your turn, exhaust Eon Chart and spend 1 secret to choose and take 2 of the following actions in any order. Move, evade, or investigate. Then I'll discard up to 2 cards. I will discard You Handle This One and a Research Librarian, spending 2 resources to do 2 damage to the spawn of Holly on Jacqueline. And then the first Bloodright will get shuffled back into the deck. Then action 2, we'll use another Bloodright. So Eon Chart's in the hand now. 2 more cards from here. First up we find an Unspeakable Oath Curiosity. That's going to be a problem. We can't discard that voluntarily. Peril Hidden. Revelation, secretly add this to your hand. When the game ends or you're eliminated, if this card's in your hand, you earn 2 or fewer experience. Reaction, after you successfully investigate a location with no clues on it, discard this card from your hand. And Bloodright again. Wow. Okay. So we'll discard 2 cards. We'll discard Research Librarian and... Actually, I don't want to discard Strange Solution. I'll bin the Eye of Truth. Alright. Which means we'll spend the last 2 resources to take out the spawn of Holly. It's a bit of a waste, but the reason I'm so warm to doing this is A, we got lucky now that we've got both other copies of Bloodright in Mandy's hand, but B, I am completely out of resources at this point. Hopefully that won't last long, though. We will be headed up to... We're probably going to send Jacqueline up to try to work on dealing with the man in the pallid mask. Alright, and then action 3, I think Mandy will take a resource back. So that will do it for Mandy, that will do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, the creature out of Dim, he's not a hunter, neither is the man in the pallid mask. So now we'll flip everything back over. The spawn of Holly is defeated. And we'll flip these 2 over. And now we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Jacqueline gains 1 resource, goes to 4. Mandy gains 1 and goes to 2. Jacqueline draws. Enchanted Bow. Oh, this is wonderful. 3 costs to play, Will and Agility on commit. Uses 3 charges. As an action, exhaust Enchanted Bow to fight, using either Will or Agility, translated Will, instead of combat, and get +1 skill value for the attack. This attack deals +1 damage, and as an additional cost to initiate this ability, you may spend 1 charge to have this attack target a non-elite enemy at a connecting location. If you do, ignore Aloof and Retaliate for this attack. Mandy draws. Momentum. If this skill test is successful, reduce the difficulty of the next skill test you perform this phase by X, where X is the amount this test is succeeded by to a maximum of 3. Mythos phase, we put our third Doom up on the agenda. Jacqueline draws. High Priest of the King in yellow. Spawn at the Palace of the King. Pray most cards in hand. Hunter. Forced. When the High Priest of the King in yellow attacks you, if you have a copy of Possession in your hand, reveal it. The High Priest welcomes you into the grand company of the King. You're eliminated and driven insane. Oh, delightful. So he spawns at the Palace of the King. Mandy draws. Possession Torturous. Oh boy. Secretly add Possession Torturous to your hand. If you have horror on you greater than twice your sanity, you are immediately eliminated and killed. As an action, spend 5 resources to discard Possession Torturous from your hand. Oh, that's going to be fun. Then Mandy will exhaust Ancestral Knowledge to get a skill. She will draw. Deduction, which will be handy once we don't have to worry about the act anymore. 2 lore on commit. If this skill test is successful while investigating a location, discover 1 additional clue at that location. 2 additional clues instead if you succeed by 2 or more. Alright, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got 9 cards in hand, 2 of which I can't voluntarily discard, which is a problem, but we'll move into the investigation phase. Jacqueline's turn will take us over to her play area. I had a plan that was involving attacking from distance, but seeing the High Priest of the King in yellow might have changed my plans a little bit, but let's see what happens. It did change my first action at least. So for action 1, I'm going to play out the Arcane Initiate. Forced. After it enters play, I either place a Doom or 2 Horror on it. As a fast action, I can exhaust Arcane Initiate to search the top 3 cards of my deck for a spell and draw it, shuffling my deck. I'm going to grab the... I'm going to grab the... What do I want to put on this? I'm going to put a Doom on it, gambling that I'll be able to advance... I'm going to need the Sanity Soak, most likely. Well, actually, I don't really need the Sanity Soak too much. So I think I'll put the... do I want to put a Doom or 2 Horror on it? I think I'm going to gamble and put the Doom on it. Then I'll immediately exhaust the Arcane Initiate to search the top 3 of my deck for a spell. I think I'm going to go 6 deeper, though. Yeah, I'm going to go 6 deeper. Pray looking for most cards in hand. So right now, the High Priest of the King in yellow is looking for Mandy. But if this plan works, I can send Jacqueline to intercept. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I know this spell I could really use right now. First card up, so I'm going to flip Mandy's special ability over. First card up. Occult Theory, which I can't take. Next up. Power Word, which I could... maybe. We'll think about this one. Customizable, fast play only during your turn. Attached to a non-elite enemy at your location. As an action, if attached enemy is at your location, parlay, give it a command. Limit once per round per command. I've got quite a few commands. Are any of them going to be relevant right now? Probably, well, maybe. We might be able to keep the... Oh, they're both elite. Never mind. So that's probably not that relevant, but we'll see. Next up. Lady Esprit, Dangerous Bokor. I can't take her anyway. Next up. Another Enchanted Bow, which is tempting. That was going to be the original plan. Next up. Drawn to the Flame, which I can't take. And... Ward of Protection. Alright, so those 3 I can't take. Yeah, I think I just take another... I think I'm just going to take another bow, actually. The more I can kind of work from distance, the better off I'll be. I can kind of cheese this out a little bit. I've got a little bit of plan since I know the High Priest of the King in Yellow is looking for Mandy. Alright, so Jacqueline's deck's shuffled. Action 2, I'm going to spend 3 resources to play out one of Jacqueline's copies of the Enchanted Bow. Then I'm going to grab 2 charges and exhaust it because I'm going to aim the... Well, I'll explain what I'm doing once I get the charges for it. So there's basically my 3 charges. 2 charges and an exhaustion token because in Action 3 I'm immediately going to use it. And I'm spending a charge. Who do I want to aim at? I think I'll aim at the Man in the Pallid Mask, since that's who we need to drop to advance. And I'm going to put Jacqueline's ability behind this. So I'm at 6-4. I'm up 2, drawing 3 tokens. One, two, three. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. Wait. Hold everything. I just remembered something. Jacqueline actually can't play ally assets, so I need to rewind that entire turn. So I completely forgot about that. So pretend that everything you've seen for the entire turn didn't happen. So that should be in her hand. Copy of the Enchanted Bow should be in her deck right now. Never mind, I completely spaced on that front. I mean, there's not too much about the turn that's likely to change. Well, the turn will change a bit. But I completely spaced on the Bleak Plains not being able to play ally assets. So let me give that another shuffle. Just because I don't remember what exactly was... That's right. I had to take the attack of opportunity to move up with the Spawn of Holly last turn so Mandy could defeat it. That's what happened. Okay. Now that I've got that straight, now I think I'm back to my original plan. So, let me just put in an editing note here. This is round 3. Right. Editing notes in, so we're ready to go. Action 1, now that I've rewound Jacqueline's entire turn, will be to play the Enchanted Bow. So we'll play that out. Action 2 is going to be exhausting the Enchanted Bow to target the Man in the Pallid Mask, and I'm still putting Jacqueline's special ability behind it, where I'm up 2. One, two, three. All right. Token 1. A 0. Well, I'm getting a look at it, but I have to be able to pick it up. Token 2 is a -1. And a -2. So I'll cancel the -1 and the -2. Revealing the 0 and dealing 2 damage to the Man in the Pallid Mask. And then what do I want to do? Do I want to leave Jacqueline in the way? He's going to be looking for Mandy anyway. If I move up to the ruins of Carcosa, I can still move down to intercept. Yeah, I think that's probably worthwhile. So action 3 will take us over to the map. Action 3, Jacqueline will move up to the ruins of Carcosa. So we'll take a look at the ruins of Carcosa. Shroud of 2, 2 clues. Forced, after you discover the last remaining clue on ruins of Carcosa, take 1 damage. So old seem these relics, these vestiges of vanity and memorials of affection and piety, so battered and worn and stained. Ambrose Beers, an inhabitant of Carcosa. Alright, that will do it for Jacqueline. Mandy's turn. She's going to move down to the shores of Holly, and then take 2 resources for her turn. Nice and simple for her. So Mandy didn't end up using her special ability. That'll do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, the High Priest of the King in yellow moves to the Bleak Plains. Remember, he's looking for most cards in hand, and right now that's Mandy. So I'll exhaust everything there. And that will bring us back up top for the upkeep phase. Jacqueline gains 1 resource and goes to 2. Mandy gains 1 and goes to 5. Jacqueline draws. Emergency cash level 2. This is very welcome. Gain 3 resources and draw 1 card. That can come off. Mandy draws. Survey the area. While it's in your hand or committed to a skill test, it gains lore icons equal to your agility, which is 3, and agility equal to your lore, which is 5. We could use that to potentially break engagement with the High Priest of the King in yellow if we need to. Mythos phase, 4th Doom on the agenda. Jacqueline draws. Visions in your mind, failure. Peril hidden. Secretly add this card to your hand. When your turn ends, if you didn't perform at least 1 resource action during your turn, discard this card from your hand and take 1 direct damage and 1 direct horror. So we'd probably need to be taking more resources with Jacqueline. Mandy draws. Praying Bayaki. 2, 3, 5. Pray lowest remaining sanity only. Hunter. While engaged with an investigator with remaining sanity 4 or fewer, swap Praying Bayaki's fight and evade values. Oh, delightful. So that's engaged with Mandy. That probably won't be a huge problem for her to deal with. Leaving the Mythos phase, Mandy will exhaust Ancestral Knowledge to draw another skill she will find. Oh, wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have to discard 2 cards. That'll be a Momentum and a Strange Solution, I think. Alright, so those are gone. Okay, so now we find Survey the Area. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, wait. Okay, I think we found another Survey the Area from Ancestral Knowledge. That's what happened. Okay, now that we've got that figured out, we're into the investigation phase, and Jacqueline's turn will start us at her play area. Action 1, we're going to start by aiming the enchanted bow at the man in the pallid mask. And I'm putting Jacqueline's ability behind it. It's a good thing I didn't flip that. I want to be able to take him out this round. Even though I think I know what's coming. One, two, 3. Oop. 1 in the reveal hand, Phoenix. Token 1 is a -2. Token 2, another -2, which is not good because we're only up 2, and a rune, which is fortunate because we can cancel the rune and one of the -2s. The man in the pallid mask would be defeated by damage, so we're about to advance. The disguise is laid aside. Spawn the set-aside King of Yellow, Lord of Carcosa enemy at the Man in the Pallid Mask's location. Remove the Man in the Pallid Mask from the game. Oh, delightful. Alright, so that'll be another mark on chasing the stranger. So now we get to remove the Man in the Pallid Mask from play, and now we've got a big problem on our hands, because I'll put him to the side. Which one did we want? Lord of Carcosa. Okay. Yowza. The King in Yellow, Lord of Carcosa. 3, 9 per investigator, 3. Prey, most remaining sanity. Hunter, massive. If the King in Yellow's attack deals you horror in excess of your sanity, you take 1 damage as well. While the King in Yellow is being attacked or evaded by an investigator with no remaining sanity, treat each good symbol, treat each elder sign, +1, 0, or -1 token that investigator reveals as a tentacle. Does 2 horror on attack. That could be a problem. Alright, so he spawns at the Palace of the King. Huh. Yikes, he's a hunter. Okay. So do we stick with having Jacqueline run interception detail? Oh, that's a tough decision. Because now Mandy's got to figure out a way to deal with... Well, actually, yeah, Mandy... I think we do have to have Jacqueline run interception detail. Because there's no way... Because if the High Priest of the King in Yellow gets down to Mandy, she's going to be defeated. Because we have to deal with this praying Bayaki as well. So, yeah. I think for Action 2, our best bet right now... I think we take a... Do we take a resource and move? This is... Well... Technically, our options are open because the High Priest of the King in Yellow doesn't do any damage or sanity on attack unless... And he's not really a problem unless we have a possession card in hand. So I think just to try to get a little bit more set up, I'm going to play my emergency cash. You can never be too prepared. I'm taking a bit of a calculated gamble here that this card is going to be something useful, so I will draw... That is not useful at all. Kleptomania. Not something I want to see right now. As an action, take control of an item, asset, or 2 resources from another investigator at your location. Then shuffle it into your deck. Forced at the end of your turn, take 1 horror. Mandy's going to need to play something very quickly that Jacqueline can yeet away from her. That is not something I wanted to see at all. When our sanity is already being frayed. So I think Action 3 will take us over to the map. Action 3, Jacqueline is going to move down to the Bleak Plains, which will intercept the High Priest of the King in Yellow. That will do it for Jacqueline. At the end of her turn, she takes 1 horror because she wasn't able to steal anything from Mandy. That's unfortunate, but there's no help for that at this point. Mandy's turn, Action 1, she's going to play out... one of her copies of Bloodright. Even though she probably could get away from this praying Bayaki. Do I want to just take it out now? Because I'm going to need all the damage I can get and then some for the King in Yellow. And I'd prefer testless damage if I can help it. Question is, do we just try to land on him like a 1,000-pound bomb? Or do we just play... Actually, you know what? We could lock him down, I think. So as a fast action, I'm going to flip the Shores of Holly. Songs that the Hyades shall sing. Black stars sing in the reflection of the water, their melody impossible and uncanny, yet somehow you remember the tune. It is through your earliest memory, it is as though your earliest memory has returned to you. You hum it first. Ripples appearing along the water's surface as the volume increases. The lyrics return to you, and you join in the stars singing, your voice echoing across the twisted realm. Deal 1 per investigator or 2 damage to the king in yellow. Exhaust him and disengage him from all investigators. Flip this card back over. For the remainder of the game, it cannot be flipped over. Wait a minute. Remove each investigator's clues from the game. Okay. So yeah, we had the... Right. We had no clues to remove from the game. So flip your location over and resolve the text on the other side, which we're doing now. And then for the remainder of the game, it can't be flipped back over. So I'm going to grab a resource token just to indicate the locations I've flipped over. 2 damage to the king in yellow, so that will buy us a turn to get ready to start dealing with him. He is exhausted, thankfully. The more chip damage we can start doing to him, the better off we'll be. Now coming back to action 1, Mandy will now play... do I have anything I want to discard? Well, let's see what I draw from it, but I'm going to play a blood right because I need to get rid of this praying Bayaki if I can. 3 cards to draw. First card up. Hiking boots, which is probably going to be good discard fodder. Because right now I need to get rid of this praying Bayaki, and I need all the damage I can find. Next up. Empirical hypothesis, also good discard fodder. Also, speaking of discard, Jacqueline took the... Actually, Jacqueline didn't take a resource action this turn, so Visions in your mind triggers, which means she'll take another 1 and 1. And the Envisions in your mind gets discarded. So I must have taken the damage for that, but forgotten to deal her the horror as well. Then the third card up from... I think this was the third card from Blood, right? So third card is Death 13. This would have been a lot more useful at the start of the game, but those 3 cards can get discarded. Then I'll spend 3 resources to take out the Praying Bayaki. I should still have 2 copies of Bloodright, and I have 1. Let's see. Action 2, I think Mandy will go join Jacqueline up at the Bleak Plains. And action 3, she's going to try to investigate. We'll commit deduction to the test. So we're up 3. I was about to pull 3 tokens, but I don't have Jacqueline's ability behind this. Didn't need it with the -1, so that's two more clues off of the location. So that was action 1. Action 2 was to move. Action 3 was deduction. Okay, now that we got that figured out, that will do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, the High Priest of the King in yellow tries to attack, but Jacqueline doesn't have a possession treachery in hand, which is part of why I sent her up to intercept. So that will do it for the enemy phase, and the King in Yellow is exhausted. The creature out of Demi is not a hunter. So he will ready. Actually, everything will ready. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Jacqueline gains 1 resource and goes to 6. Mandy gains 1 and goes to 3. Jacqueline draws. The Key of Yiz. 3 cost to play, or Let the Storm Rage. 3 cost to play. Will and Lore and Wildcard on commit. You get +1 to each of your skills for each horror on Key of Yiz. When forced, when any amount of horror would be placed on you, place 1 of that horror on Key of Yiz. Forced, when Key of Yiz leaves play, discard the top 10 cards of your deck. Yikes. Mandy draws. Actually, that could be handy here. Ariadne's Twine. 0 cost to play, 2 lore on commit. Uses 0 secrets. Secrets on Ariadne's Twine can be spent as if they were on any asset controlled by an investigator at your location. As an action, exhaust Ariadne's Twine. Move 1 secret from an asset you control to your resource pool as a resource, or vice versa. Let me make sure we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, we're all clear there. Mythos phase, 5th Doom on the agenda. We also need to be careful because once we get at least 6 damage on the king in yellow, we're advancing the agenda. Jacqueline draws. The King's Edict. Revelation. For each cultist enemy in play, move 1 clue from that enemy's location to that enemy. Until the end of the round, each cultist enemy in play gets +1 fight and or for each clue and or doom on it. If no clues are moved by this effect, the King's Edict gains Surge. So the only cultist in play right now is the High Priest of the King in yellow, and our location's empty of clues. So this gains Surge, which means it will surge into for Jacqueline. The final act, Surge. If you have no remaining sanity, place 2 doom on the current agenda. This effect can cause the current agenda to advance. Jacqueline has 1 sanity remaining, so that would have Surge anyway, but we don't put the 2 doom on the agenda, so this surges into Visions in Your Mind, Death. Secretly add this card to your hand. Forced. When your turn ends, if you did not perform at least 1 move action during your turn, discard this card and take 1 direct damage and 1 direct horror. At least it's not a possessions card. Mandy draws. The Yellow Sign. Revelation, test Will 4. If you fail, take 2 horror and search your deck for a madness weakness. Draw that card and shuffle your deck. They came to me slowly as if I had forgotten them, and at last I could make some sense out of the sounds. It was this. Have you found this Yellow Sign? Robert W. Chambers, The Yellow Sign. Delightful. Madness is not something I want to deal with right now, so do I just test? Do I just bring Eureka to get even and maybe put Jacqueline's ability behind this? Let me see what she's got in her hand right now. I saw an occult theory earlier, but I couldn't take that. I'd rather play the Key of Yiz if I can. We're going to keep pinging the king in yellow most likely. I think our play right now is just to play Eureka and put... I don't think I can afford to put Jacqueline's ability behind this, because I'm going to need it for other things. So I'm going to make Eureka to even and just hope to God for a pull. Because I'll be searching for a madness weakness if I don't get this. Come on. You do not want to... There we go. A +1 means we're clear. So Mandy passes that, and Eureka triggers. I'm going to have her search... what do I want to have her search? What do I even want right now? I think we're going to go... I don't even know what I want right now. Let's go 6 deeper just to open up our options a bit more. Even though I'm risking getting shocking discovery here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. First card up. There's a Pantalone, which I could probably use to help refill my hand. Next up, Bloodright, which is also very tempting, because we can probably put some serious damage on the king in yellow with that. Next up, Pathfinder, which would be helpful for mobility. So we're finding all good options so far. Next up, another Pathfinder. Next up, Empirical Hypothesis, which I know I don't want. And Quick Thinking. Ooh, we got some good stuff to look at. We got another Bloodright, which we're probably not going to do anything with, because I was hoping to get more resources out of the action. Yeah, I was definitely hoping to get more resources out of this, but we could probably... I think... Do I want to try to put as much damage on... I definitely want to keep working on the king in yellow, but I need to get rid of this High Priest of the King in Yellow first. I could risk an evasion on it. I mean, Mandy could probably pass an evasion test in her sleep, so I think we're actually going to take quick thinking and risk it a little bit. I'm going to see if I can get a bit of a tempo swing here. If we can get away from this High Priest of the King in Yellow, that might be a big help to us. All right. Then we're shuffled there. And as our last, actually, let's take a quick look at quick thinking. Wildcard on commit, and if you're successful by 2 or more, after it resolves, you may immediately take an action as if it were your turn. This action does not count toward the number of actions you can take each round. Then I'll exhaust Ancestral Knowledge to pull the last skill from under it, so Mandy will draw. Another Momentum. Okay. That will bring us into the investigation. Actually, before we do that, do we want to buy ourselves one more turn? Because we could pop the location. We could pop our location right now. And I think I will. So I'll exhaust the clue. I'll spend the clues, and we'll flip the Bleak Plains. Bleak Desolation. This world is but a remnant of what it once was. The grand majesty of Carcosa, spoken of in The King in Yellow, is lost in this expanse of endless desolation. Dead, twisted trees, starving animals, and barren fields greet you everywhere you turn. You begin to look for evidence of what might have caused such devastation. Across the lake, you see dark, twisted structures similar to those in Carcosa. At least one appears on as large and as grand as the King in Yellow's domain. You wonder if perhaps some kind of conflict took place between the two cities. Deal 2 per investigator or 4 damage to the King in Yellow. Flip this card back over. For the remainder of the game, it can't be flipped over again. So we'll put another 4 damage on the King in Yellow. We'll get to see some of my special markers. Here we go. This is a marker from Orbits, which brings us up to 5, which is a 5. But that more important, that brings us up to 6 health, which means 6 damage on the King in Yellow, which means we advance the agenda. Come on. Key to the... Turning a corner, you nearly bump into a nurse with light brown hair and sharp features. You tell her about the violent patients and the strange things you've seen, but she doesn't listen. When you inquire about Daniel, she informs you that he is a friend of the king and that he resides in the palace. The investigators must decide, choose one. The investigators must decide, choose one. An investigator tests Will 4 to snap out of it. If you succeed, advance to Agenda 2A. If you fail, you must choose an option you have yet to choose. An investigator tests Lore 4 to remember that you've done this before. If successful, advance to Act 2A. If failed, you must choose an option you have yet to choose. This can't be real. This can't be real. This can't be real. Each investigator takes 2 horror, advance to Agenda 2A. The investigators faint and awaken sometime later. Advance to Agenda 2A and place 1 doom on it. Well, I think we're going to have... What do we want to do? I think Mandy's going to test Lore 4. And then she's going to commit... What do I want to commit to this test? I'm testing Lore. Right now I'm up 1. Do I go up 3 and try to get an extra action out of it? You know what I'm going to do, actually? I'm going to commit... let's see, that's a 5. You know what? I think I am going to try it. So I'm going to commit Momentum and Quick Thinking to go up 3 and trying to get an extra action out of this. We'll go through our new agenda in a second. Well, yeah, we'll have our new agenda once we resolve this. So we're up 3 right now. That's a 0, so we get 2 things out of that. Momentum, I'm going to grab a die for that, so I know our next test is... Just to remind myself that clause opening, by the way. So the die I'm putting on momentum on a 3 means the next skill test I perform is going to be basically 3 easier. Is probably the simplest way to put it. And then quick thinking gives me an extra action, which I will use. This is a bit of a calculated gamble, but do I want to just start working on the High Priest of the King in yellow, or do I want to keep working on the man himself? Right, I need a resource for Bleak Plains since I flipped that over. Actually, you know what? Since my next test is easier by 3, I'm going to engage the High Priest of the King in yellow. I'm taking a risk that I won't be able to get away from him, but I can pull him back if I need to. So I'm doing that, which means we've advanced to the new agenda. So Agenda 2A. Madness drowns. I thought, too, of the King in yellow wrapped in the fantastic colors of his tattered mantle and that bitter cry of Casilda. Not upon us, O King, not upon us. Robert W. Chambers, The Mask, the King in Yellow. The King in Yellow gets +1 fight and cannot be defeated. Forced, if there's at least 5 per investigator or 10 damage on the King in Yellow, advance this agenda. And we need 7 doom to advance. So we got clear of that. Alright, so with that, that's unexhausted technically, that will bring us into the investigation phase, and I think Jacqueline's turn will take us to her play area. If Mandy can't get away from the High Priest of the King in yellow, then I had a very bad idea, but we're going to try it. Action 1, I'm going to spend the last charge of the enchanted bow. Actually, I'll exhaust it, and yes, I will spend the last charge to target the King in yellow, and I'm going to throw her special ability behind it. So right now I'm up, that puts me up 2. Is there anything I want to commit to this? There is not. Okay, there's nothing I want to commit to this. So, right. Actually, I take that back. I will commit a copy of Spectral Razor. So that'll put me up 3. And I'm pulling 3 tokens. One, 2, 3. Okay, took me a bit to get it out, but I got it. First token up is a -1. Fortunately, we're not attacking the King in yellow with an investigator who has no remaining sanity. Cultist and -2. So I'll cancel the cultist and the -2, revealing the -1, which will put another 2 damage on the King in yellow, bringing him up to 8, which means we're just about halfway home. Action 2, Jacqueline is going to take the occult lexicon from Mandy with kleptomania, mostly so I can get rid of that, because I don't want to keep taking excess horror from that. So the enchanted bow will get discarded to slot pressure, and then kleptomania goes back into Jacqueline's deck. Fortunately, the occult lexicon is an item, so I do get to take that with kleptomania. Then action 3 will take us over to the map. I know I'm taking a chance here by having the king in, by basically triggering the king in yellow to move this turn. I'm going to have to trust that Mandy can get us away from him. So we're going to move up to the ruins of Carcosa, and that will do it for Jacqueline's turn. Mandy's first action is going to be to try to evade the High Priest of the King in yellow. We're up. Well, the difficulty right now is a 0, so Mandy's basically in a situation of just don't pull a tentacle. Elder Sign is actually even better. Because the Elder Sign, if I can ever get under Mandy's card, is +0. Search the top 3 cards of your deck for a card and either draw it or commit it to this test if able. Shuffle your deck. I will send Mandy... I don't even know what I want at this point. Do I want clues? Do I want clue generation? Do I want resource generation? Well, let's send her 6 deep and see what we find. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Mostly I like having more options. First up, Through the Gates, which is definitely not something I want. Next up, Ariadne's Twine, which is possible but not likely. Next up, another Blood Right. That could be useful, especially if we're going to be starting to do a lot more damage to the king in yellow. Then, another Deduction, which could be helpful. Next up, Pathfinder, and In the Know. So we've definitely got options in front of us here. That's discarded. I don't want Ariadne's Twine or Through the Gates. So we're definitely evading the High Priest of the King in yellow any way we do this. We could pull clues. We could also just start doing... Does he do any damage? No, he does horror. Which will put Jacqueline... Jacqueline will be over the top when he attacks. Unless I have Mandy go intercept him now, which is actually a pretty tempting idea. Oh, actually, can't be defeated. Doesn't say anything about he can't be evaded. So that's good to know. I think we still need to do... We still need to do 6 more damage, I think, to the king in yellow before we can flip over the palace. Let's probably just take... Let's just take Blood Right and plan on starting to do a lot of damage. We're going to need resources for that in a hurry, though. Actually, if I have the other 2 in my hand, I have 1 in my hand. I think I'll take the other Blood Right, though. I think that's going to be the play here. Didn't mean to jar the camera there. Okay. That was action 1. Action 2, she will go up and make friends with the king in... Mandy will go up and make friends with the king in yellow. Then action 3, she's going to try to evade this guy, committing Survey the Area. So that's giving her agility equal to her lore, which is another 5. So she was going into it base even. Now she's up 5. -3 is enough to evade the king in yellow, so he's exhausted. And our gamble looks like it's going to pay off, at least for now. So that will do it for Mandy as well. That will do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, the creature out of Demhe is not a hunter. The king in yellow is exhausted, as is his high priest. I'll say it in English one of these days. So I'll start resetting everything. The king in yellow makes friends with Mandy once again because he's massive. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Jacqueline gains 1 resource and goes to 7. Mandy gains 1 and goes to 4. Jacqueline draws. Arcane Studies level 4. 2 cost to play, 2 will, 2 lore on commit. Uses 2 resources. Replenish these resources at the start of the round. Free action, spend a resource from your resource pool or from Arcane Studies. You get +1 will or lore for this skill test. Mandy draws. Through the Gates. Oh, delightful. We skipped this from the earlier from Eureka, or from her Elder Sign. Revelation, draw the top card of your deck. If it's not a weakness, remove that card from the game. Then search your deck, discard pile, hand, and all play areas for each other copy of that card you own and remove them from the game as well. So let's see what Through the Gates is hitting. Through the Gates is hitting Ariadne's Twine. I'm not completely heartbroken about that. I think we only had one. Yep, we only had 1 in hand, so those are gone, and I didn't need to search the deck, so I'm not going to bother shuffling that. Mythos phase, we put our first Doom on the new agenda. Jacqueline draws. Spawn of Holly again. Great. We saw this earlier. And now we need to be very careful because the next horror Jacqueline takes will put her over her maximum sanity. Mandy draws. The Sign of the King in Yellow. Attach the Sign of the King in Yellow to either the current act or agenda. Limit 1 per agenda or act. Forced. Each time an investigator takes 1 or more horror, he or she takes 1 additional horror. I'm going to attach it to the agenda because we're not too far from advancing that. In fact, if I want to, I could even advance it this turn, which I'm sort of tempted to do just to try to keep things moving along, but we'll see how that goes. With that, though, we're into the investigation phase, and we need to get away from the spawn of Holly. The question is, how do I do that? Well, I think Jacqueline will have to have the answers in her play area, so let's drop down to her and find out. I also needed to change my battery because I saw that I was pretty low. Action 1 for Jacqueline. She's going to try to evade the spawn of Holly. I'm going to commit... Oh, this hurts. Do I want to commit the Key of Yiz? I really wanted to be able to play it, but I don't think I'm going to be able to. So I'm going to have to commit the Key of Yiz. This really hurts. To go up 1, and then I'm going to put Jacqueline's ability behind this as well. -1 gets her away from the spawn of Holly, but Jacqueline, Oh! I should have pulled 2 more tokens. So the first one was a -1. So hang on a second, we haven't evaded anything yet. I gotta pull 2 more. I forgot I was putting Jacqueline's ability behind this. -1 would be enough to evade if I'm able to keep only the -1. 2, 3. Token 2 is a skull and a 0. So even better, I'll cancel the -1 and the skull, revealing the 0, and now Jacqueline, now the spawn of Holly is evaded. Jacqueline does take 1 horror, though, which does put her at over top of her maximum, so now she's considered to have no remaining sanity, which means effects are going to be a lot more dangerous to her. Action 2... I think I probably need to intercept the High Priest of the King in Yellow at some point, so Mandy can keep working on the man himself. So I think Action 2 will be to pop a charge of Clairvoyance. to try to get the clues off of that location. We're going to take a damage from that, but I can deal with that. So Jacqueline that's a shroud of 2. She's up 5, 8. She's up 6. But I don't have her ability to put behind this. Actually, Jacqueline should have taken a second horror from the sign of the king in yellow. So anyway, now we're up 6. Cultist is not good. Reveal another token. If you fail, take 1 horror. Oh, delightful. -3 is enough to get the clues off the location, and Jacqueline doesn't take any horror from that. I'll then remove the clues from the game as a fast action, so I can flip over the runes of Carcosa. A moment's rest. During your exploration, you find an old crumbled building that makes for an ideal refuge from this world's dry heat and its horrifying creatures. For the first time since entering this realm, you take a moment to rest in the building's cool shade. The quiet calm soothes your aching muscles and weary mind, but you can't stay for long. You must decide, choose one. Choose an enemy in play, exhaust that enemy and disengage it from all investigators. You heal 5 horror. Remove this card from the game and set it aside and replace it with another set-aside copy of the Ruins of Carcosa. Move all investigators, enemies, and attachments from this location to the new copy of Ruins of Carcosa. Add clues to that copy of Ruins of Carcosa until it has clues on it equal to its clue value. This is interesting because I can either lock down the king in yellow and make Mandy's turn a little bit easier. I'm going to go get the copy of the Ruins of Carcosa while I kick this around. I can either I've got a few options here. I could lock down the king in yellow. Ruins of Carcosa. Here we are. Jacqueline should have also taken a damage. I will deal with that in a minute. Actually, I'll deal with that now while I kick this around. I can either lock down the king in yellow to make Mandy's turn easier, lock down the high priest of the king and lock down his high priest so I don't have to worry about Mandy intercepting and maybe try to get another clue off, or I can heal 5 horror, all of which are very tempting ideas. We'll put that copy of the Ruins of Carcosa out. They all are the same on the unrevealed side, so we'll get the 2 clues for that. Healing 5 horror would turn off those effects for Jacqueline. That's a tempting idea as well. But I think, let me look at Mandy's hand. Mandy can probably get away from the king in yellow again, so I'm not too worried about that. I think and intercepting the high priest of the king in yellow is something I might have to do, but you know what? I think I'm going to exhaust the high priest of the king in yellow. That way I don't have to worry about intercepting him this round, which will actually give Jacqueline a free hand to spend 3 resources. Actually, wait a minute. I need to take a move action anyway. Yeah, I need to take a move action, or Mandy's going to get obliterated, or Mandy would get obliterated. So, and since Jacqueline doesn't have a treachery or have a possession in hand, so I still have the 3 resources. I'm kind of thinking this through. So I either heal 5 horror, or I exhaust an enemy. Actually, that would be 1 direct damage and 1 direct horror. The horror wouldn't be that bad. The damage would probably be the bigger problem, though. but I think I'll stick with the play and exhaust the High Priest of the King in yellow. Because for action 3, I know I'm going to have the Spawn of Holly coming back to me doing it this way, but I don't think there's a help for it at this point. Actually, I could move over there anyway. But I'm going to play Shriveling out. So I'll get the 4 charges for that. I'm probably going to plan on trying to take out the Spawn of Holly on Jacqueline's next turn. So there's 4 charges for that. I think that's going to be the play here. That will do it for Jacqueline's turn. Now let's go meet Mandy over at the map. I almost forgot about the creature out of Demhi. He's not been doing much this game, but since we flipped over the Runes of Carcosa and he was ready, he does attack Jacqueline. So 1 and 1. Fortunately, defeat in Carcosa is not a thing. Anyway, over to Mandy's turn. We're going to trust her to be able to get away from the king in yellow. So let's see if Survey the Area gives us the way to do that. So we are up 5. -2 gets us away from the king in yellow once again, so we don't have to worry about him moving on us. Let's see, that was action 1. Action 2, I'm going to spend 2 resources to play out her Eon chart. Uses 3 secrets. During your turn, exhaust Eon chart and spend a secret. Choose and take 2 of the following actions in any order. Move, evade, or investigate. We'll get the 2 charges and an exhaustion for that, because actually we've got the exhausted token over here, because Mandy is immediately going to exhaust it to move over to Runes of Carcosa and investigate. She's up. Mandy's up by 3, actually, trying to get the clue off here. Tentacle touched. Not a good time for that, Mandy. Although I suppose there's worse things that could have happened. Yikes. Well, I think we're going to actually work on the Spawn of Holly a little bit. So, I'm going to play Bloodright and gamble that I draw cards that I want to discard. I'm going to use it as a 2. That way Jacqueline only needs 1 action to take it out. So, first card up is a Pathfinder, and Burning the Midnight Oil. Ooh, that's a tough one, because I need resources badly. I think I'm going to have to gamble and discard a Pathfinder and a Bloodright, because I need the Burning the Midnight Oil. I'll spend 2 resources to do 2 damage to the Spawn of Holly, but I'm at least shuffling a Bloodright back into Mandy's deck to hopefully find it again. Alright, that will do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, the only enemy that isn't exhausted is the creature out of Demhi, but he's not a hunter. So we'll re-ready everything. The Spawn of Holly will go back to Jacqueline, which is actually probably fine because we're going to try to kill that on our next turn. Then we'll flip all of these over. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Jacqueline gains 1 resource and goes to 8. Mandy gains 1 and goes to 1. Jacqueline will draw. Ward of Protection, level 2. 1 cost to play, wildcard on commit. Fast to play. When an investigator at any location draws a non-weakness treachery card, cancel that card's effect, then take 1 horror. Mandy draws. Occult Evidence. Shuffle it back into your deck. 0 cost to play, wildcard on commit. When you search your deck and occult evidence is among the searched cards, reveal it to draw and discover 1 clue at your location. Maximum 1 research ability per search. Mythos phase, second doom on the agenda. Jacqueline draws. The Sign of the King in yellow. This one we have to attach to the act. So now whenever we take 1 horror, we're taking 2 additional. That's a problem. Mandy draws. Visions in Your Mind, Hatred. Add this card to your hand. When your turn ends, if you do not perform at least 1 draw action during your turn, discard this card from your hand and take 1 direct damage and 1 direct horror. Great. So we've got Mandy's hand getting all kinds of messed up. But that will do it for the Mythos phase. Investigation phase, and Jacqueline's first order of business is to kill the spawn of Holly. Action 1 for Jacqueline. Sure looks like a shriveling on the spawn of Holly and put her ability behind it, which will put her up 4, drawing 3 tokens. One, two, three. First token up is a skull, which is going to be very dangerous indeed. Next up, a -2 and another skull. So we'll cancel. Well, I'll show you why I'm canceling both skulls. -2, -4 instead if you have no sanity remaining. Jacqueline has no sanity remaining. Plus, if she were to reveal the skull during the shriveling, she would be taking 4 horror right now. And, yeah, that's not exactly on my bucket list of things that I particularly want to do today. So, the spawn of Holly is very much defeated. Thank you, pretty much every god I've ever met. Not that I've met very many. Let's see, Action 2. Action 2, now that I'm going to play out the Arcane Initiate, I'm going to put... this is going to be a bit of a gamble. What to do. I'm going to put... Well, now we've got some soak options. So I'm going to put a Doom on her, because I do need all the sanity... Well, I do need all the sanity soak I can get. Then I'm going to exhaust the Arcane Initiate to search to go... Right now, I think we're kind of in... Storm of Spirits or Bust mode. So I'm going to go 6 deep, thanks to Mandy's special ability. I'm trying to get a little bit set up for next round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because I know the King in Yellow is going to move, but I want to be able to control where he's moving. So first up, Drawn to the Flame, which I can't take. Next up, Dark Future, do not want. I can't take Drawn to the Flame anyway. Next up, Read the Signs, which is a spell and tempting-ish, but not really. Next up, Clasp with Black Onyx, bye-bye. Next up, Occult Theory, which I can't take, and Unspeakable Oath, Bloodthirst. That was mostly a whiff. We get Read the Signs out of it, but that's not remotely the spell I wanted. Like I said, I'm pretty much in Storm of Spirits or Bust mode at this point. Actually, Storm of Spirits or Ward of Command would have worked there too, because that would let me go get Storm of Spirits. Right, then action 3 will take us over to the map. As much to stop the visions of, in your mind, death from triggering as to control the King in Yellow's movement, Jacqueline's going to move down to the bleak plains and make friends with the King in Yellow's high priest. That's it for Jacqueline's turn. Mandy is going to investigate burning the midnight oil. So she gets 2 resources when the action begins for action 1. She's up 3 trying to discover a clue. -2, nicely done, Mandy. Action 2, she'll run the Actually, this time she'll use Eon Chart. She'll start off with an investigate. A 0 gets her the last clue, which I'll immediately spend to flip the location over, which means the creature out of Demhe will trigger, attacking Mandy. And then this will flip into Inhabitant of Carcosa. You encounter a man among the ruins of the city, haggard and tired. Good stranger, he says, I am ill and lost. Direct me, I beseech you, to Carcosa. You tell him that you believe you are in the realm of Carcosa right now, and he falls to his knees in despair. No, but that cannot be. The man cries and raves, telling you more of the ancient and famous city. Though his words have little meaning to you, deep within your mind, you begin to understand. Each investigator heals 3 horror. Remove this card from the game and replace it with another set-aside copy of Ruins of Carcosa. Moving all investigators yada yada yada, and add clues until it has its clue value. Mandy takes 1 damage as well from discovering the last clue. Okay, we'll take that one, and we'll get the 2 clues for it. Then she will investigate as her second Eon Chart action. Okay, before I forget, each investigator also heals 3 horror, which brings Jacqueline back to having 1 remaining sanity, so the effects that are sensitive to remaining sanity are now turned off for Jacqueline. So we're investigating again. -2 gets her another clue. Then action 2 will investigate again. We're doing a lot of investigating this round. A 0 gets her the last clue, which I'll immediately spend them again, so she'll get attacked again, going to 3 sanity and 3 damage. She'll also take another damage from flipping the location again. She should actually be taking another horror, so she should have 2 more horror on her, because the creature out of Demhe attacked us twice. Then this flips into... We saw this earlier, a moment's rest. So we get to either exhaust an enemy or heal 5 horror. I think I'm going to exhaust the King in Yellow. I'm going to buy myself 1 more turn. Because I want to try to get rid of this High Priest of the King in Yellow before I land on them both, before I land on the King in Yellow like a 1,000-pound bomb. Actually, Mandy should be taking a lot more horror than that. She should have taken going to give her another 2 from the Sign of the King in yellow. Actually, she flipped that twice, so she should have 2 more horror on her, which means now sanity effects are turned on for Mandy. So I do need to be very aware of that. Alright, so that's the one we've got. 2 clues. Action 3, I'm going to move her down to the Bleak Plains, and that will do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, the High Priest of the King in Yellow tries to attack, but Jacqueline does not have a Possession Treachery in play, so that doesn't do anything for her. King in Yellow is exhausted, and the creature out of Demi is not a hunter, so everything will reset. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Jacqueline gains 1 resource and goes to 9. Mandy gains 1 and goes to 4. Jacqueline draws. Occult Theory. Similar to Survey the Area. While it's in your hand, it gains will equal to your lore and lore equal to your will. Mandy draws. Lost Soul. Oh boy. This could be bad. Revelation, check the campaign log. We have more conviction than doubt, so we're testing Will X, where X is my lore. If I fail, I take 2 damage. This would defeat Mandy, which is a big problem. So, I think here... Oh, this is really bad. Mandy's got her occult evidence, which she's going to commit to this test, just to get her down 1. And then Jacqueline will use, Jacqueline will use Arcane Studies to get her up 1. And in order to protect Mandy, I'm going to put Jacqueline's special ability behind this. Because I kind of have to. Actually, that's a once per round, isn't it? Yes, so we've actually already used that, which means we don't get that back yet. Yeah, we don't get that back until the start of the round. So Mandy is actually up 1, but hoping for a pull. Cultist requires us to reveal another token. +1 means we're clear, so we do survive that, thankfully. Now we get Jacqueline's ability back. I always get the timing of that screwed up. Mythos phase, we put our 3rd Doom up on the agenda. Jacqueline draws. Fanatic. Spawn revealed location with the most clues. After Fanatic enters play, move 1 clue from Fanatic's location to Fanatic. Forced when you defeat Fanatic, take control of all of its clues. So he's going up to the Dark Spires to take a clue. Then Mandy draws. Dismal Curse. Test will 3. If you have no remaining sanity, this test gets +2 difficulty. If you fail, take 2 damage. 4 instead if you have horror on you greater than twice your sanity. Okay, this is even worse. So Mandy right now is down 2, and I don't... Actually, you know what? I think Jacqueline is going to pay 1 resource. This will bring her back to having no remaining sanity, but I need to keep Mandy around too much. So I'm going to Ward of Protection that Dismal Curse away. Which I just needed to protect Mandy with that, because I was down 2 and I'm starting to get near the end of my resources. But before we leave the Mythos phase, Jacqueline will exhaust the Arcane Initiate, and we are very much in Storm of Spirits or Bust mode right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, Jacqueline's first card. Word of Command, which is basically Storm of Spirits, but I take an attack of opportunity from the High Priest of the King in yellow. Next up, internal injury, do not want. Third up, Medicio della Peste, tempting but I can't take it. Next up, the Black Book, also can't take. Next up, Lost Soul, also do not want, and Storm of Spirits. So I actually will take Storm of Spirits on this one. So that's very helpful. All right, that's a relief. So that brings us into the investigation phase, and Jacqueline's turn is going to take us over to the map. I would be taking an attack of opportunity to initiate a move, but since I don't have a possession treachery in my hand, the King in Yellow effectively does, the High Priest of the King in Yellow effectively does Bubkiss to us. So, I'm going to move into the Palace of the King for action 1. Action 2, I'm going to spend 3 resources to play the Storm of Spirits I just drew. I'm throwing Jacqueline's ability behind this either way. The question is, what do I want to aim at? I think I'm going to aim at the... I don't want to aim at the King in Yellow, because a good symbol, which would be very helpful, gets treated as a tentacle. Can I get up a reasonable amount? Yes. I will commit... Actually, I'm going to go up all the way. I'll commit Occult Theory to this attack, since I'm going to aim at the High Priest of the King in Yellow, so I can still use good symbols on the attack. So that gives me will icons equal to my lore, which is 3, which will put me up... So 3, I'm at 7, 10. I'm up 4, pulling 3 tokens. Trying to do 3 damage to everything. One, two, 3. Okay. First token up. -1. Remember, since I'm aiming at the High Priest of the King in Yellow and not the man himself, I can still use that for its normal effect. Token 2 is a skull. And token 3 is a -2. So I'll cancel the skull and the -2, revealing the -1, dealing 3 damage to everything, which that 5 will flip into a 10, and I'll get a single out. Actually, the 3 that I already threw back in can go on the High Priest of the King in Yellow, but that will be enough to advance the agenda, which means the sign of the King in Yellow on the agenda can get discarded. That doom can go away, and we'll see what we've got now. The final guest? Ah, if it isn't our final guest, the doorman announces. Miss Divine, your presence here has long been awaited. The creature slithers up the side of the palace. You swear you've seen the symbol on her amulet before. Wait, that can't be right. Well, now the real party can begin, it roars. Spawn the set-aside Beast of Aldebaran enemy at the Palace of the King. Shuffle the encounter discard pile into the deck. Uh-oh. I think I may have screwed the pooch on this one, but we get the... Beast of Aldebaran. 3/7/5, Monster Elite, Massive. While assigning damage and horror from Beast of Aldebaran's attack, you must assign as much damage and horror as possible to a single card before assigning it to another card. 2 damage, 1 sanity on attack, victory 1, and he's another massive enemy. Joy. And our last agenda is Madness Dies. I cannot forget Carcosa, where black stars hang in the heavens, where the shadows of men's thoughts lengthen in the afternoon, where the twin suns sink into the Lake of Holly, and my mind will bear forever the memory of the pallid mask. Robert W. Chambers, the repairer of reputations, the King in Yellow. The King in Yellow gets +2 fight and can't be defeated unless we know the secret. So we also need 3 more damage to flip, and the only way I don't think we find the secret here is if I'm the Pope. So, with that in mind, now we have a big problem on our hands, because we are basically defenseless. Let's see, 2 damage. Yeah, that's real bad. Do we try to... Well, I think we can probably ignore the High Priest, but I do want to try to take out... now I basically need to take out the Beast of Aldebaran. So, Jacqueline can take 1 attack from it, but she can't take 2. Is the problem I'm facing right now, and I definitely want to keep Mandy as far away from the chaos as I can. So action 3, I think I'll pop a Charge of Shriveling into the Beast of Aldebaran. So I'm up, let's see, I'm up 8 to 3, I'm up 5, but I can only pull 1 token. +1 puts 3 damage right off the bat on the Beast of Aldebaran. Unfortunately, he's massive, so I do have, like I said, I do have to keep Jacqueline away from the keep Mandy away from the carnage. So that will do it for for Jacqueline. Mandy's turn, however, I think right now it's just refill her. Well, there's also a temptation to investigate to try to get this treachery out of her hand. Visions in your mind probably should have been gone a while ago. I haven't been paying attention to that. So I'm going to pretend that it's gone. I'm going to deal her another damage and a sanity on that. Right, that wouldn't have been that wasn't her treachery because we didn't take a Dismal Curse. Action 1, however, I will draw a card. Mandy will draw. Your Worst Nightmare. Delightful. Hunter, Prey Bearer only. Can't damage, can't attack, damage, or defeat it. We can try to evade it, however, and I think that's what we have to do up 1. Actually, we'll spend an Eon Chart action to try to do that. -2 doesn't get us away from it, but we have another evade that we're going to try on it. -1 will get us away from it, thankfully. Then action 3, I'll move Mandy up to the Dim Streets. We'll take a look at this. Shroud of 2, 2 clues. Forced, after you discover the last remaining clue on Dim Streets, lose 1 action. The streets twist and churn without any semblance of logic or reason. Delightful. So that'll bring us to the enemy. That'll take us out of the investigation phase and into the enemy phase. Mandy gets away from everything. Hunters, nope. So the Beast of Aldebaran does 2 and 1. Jacqueline, must assign as much as possible to a single card before assigning it to another card. The King in Yellow will deal 2 horror to... I'll give that to the Arcane Initiate. Then I'll deal the 3rd horror and the damage to the Arcane Initiate. So she'll get obliterated. That doom probably should have been gone a while ago as well. Probably when we advance the agenda. So the Arcane Initiate's been defeated. And Jacqueline takes another damage. The High Priest of the King in Yellow tries to attack, but it can't because there's no treachery, possession treachery in Jacqueline's hand. So that will do it for her. That will do it for the enemy phase. We'll go ahead and reset everything here. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Jacqueline will gain 1 resource and go to 6. Mandy will gain 1 and go to 5. Jacqueline draws another enchanted bow, which we can't even play right now because we've got a mess on our hands. Well, we can probably play it once we get rid of... the Beast of Aldebaran. Mandy draws Pantalone. 1 cost to play, lore wildcard on commit. Limit 1 mask in play. After it enters play, draw 2 cards. When you initiate a non-lore test, discard Pantalone to use lore instead. Mythos phase, we put our first Doom on the new agenda. We need 9 to advance, by the way. Jacqueline draws Realm of Madness. Discard cards from play and or from your hand with a total printed resource cost of at least X, where X is the amount of horror on your investigator. If no cards are discarded by this effect, take 2 horror. Jacqueline right now has 9 horror on her, so we have to discard at least 9 horror worth of cards. I think that'll be... We do need clues. So I think it'll be 4 with clairvoyance, and then 2 read the signs and a spectral razor, which I don't like, but I think it's got to be that way. But the flavor text on here, but Stranger still has lost Carcosa. Great. That ripped apart Jacqueline's hand. Mandy draws Praying Bayaki. Oh, wunderbar. We saw this earlier. Mandy was able to deal with it pretty easily, but she is in, well, she's engaged with an investigator with remaining sanity 4 or fewer, which is 0, so fight and evade values are swapped, which could potentially help us out, but we need to, first order of business is we need to get away from that. Actually, the first order of business for Jacqueline right now is trying to finish off this Beast of Aldebaran, so what say we jump down to our Jacqueline's play area to start the investigation phase. First action for Jacqueline is we're going to aim a charge of Shriveling at the Beast of Aldebaran. If we're not able to kill that this turn, then I think we've met our match. So Jacqueline right now is up 5, pulling 3 tokens. One, two, three. First up is a -1. Second up, another -1 and a -2. So I'll cancel a -1 and a -2. Put another 3 damage on the Beast of Aldebaran. We're not out of this yet, folks. Action 2, last charge of Shriveling at the Beast of Aldebaran. This time we only have 1 token we can pull. Let's see what happens here. Rune is nothing good. -3. If you fail and the King in Yellow is in play, place 1 clue on your location from the token bank. Fortunately, we're not going to fail. We are going to take the Beast of Aldebaran out, but Jacqueline is going to take 3 horror from that. 2 from Shriveling and 1 because we have a copy of the Sign of the King in Yellow in play. So we'll get a 3 horror out for that. I don't know why Orbit doesn't make the specialized sanity tokens like he does for horror. But there's the 3 damage. The Beast of Aldebaran is going straight to the victory display. Let's see. Okay, we've got some options here. I might need to have Jacqueline go intercept your worst nightmare and try to deal with it on her turn. Because we can take horror. We can take attacks of opportunity from horror all day long. So, the only problem here is we got that creature out of Demhi that's up at the depths. I think for action 3, action 3 will take us over to the map. Cackling like a complete lunatic by this point in the scenario, Jacqueline's going to take an attack of opportunity from the King in Yellow, which will deal her another 3 horror. Because remember, we still have a copy of the Sign of the King in Yellow in play. If I can ever get the 3 out here. There we are. There's another 3 going on Jacqueline. Then the High Priest would try to attack, but we have no treachery in hand. So she'll move down and intercept your worst nightmare. Then that will do it for Jacqueline. Mandy's turn. What to do? I can't flip Dim Streets again because that would defeat Mandy. First I got to evade this praying Bayaki, so Mandy's up 1. If she doesn't evade this scenario, she's just going to be defeated. So we're up 1. -3 is not going to get there. Action 2, we'll do it again. Tentacle touched. And last chance, Mandy. Actually, because we revealed a tentacle during a test. Mandy, I forgot about this. Mandy should have had 2 more horror on her. Because she revealed a tentacle earlier in the scenario, and I forgot about the star 17. Actually, she should have 4 more horror on her, so... Actually, no. We'll just leave it at 2. Action 3 to try to evade again. -2 will not evade that. So that's it for Mandy. That's it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, I'm going to send the King in Yellow over toward Mandy. And then enemies will attack. So your worst nightmare will do another 3 horror to Jacqueline. Wow, we've got a lot of horror stacked up on Jacqueline. Then the High Priest of the King in Yellow would try to attack, but there's nothing... Jacqueline still doesn't have a possession treachery in hand. The King in Yellow himself would do 3 damage to Mandy, but more important is the praying Bayaki, who does 2 damage, and Mandy's been defeated by damage. So that's it for the enemy phase. Jacqueline probably isn't going to last too much longer. Your worst nightmare is technically gone as well. I'll reset everything for Jacqueline, and then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Jacqueline gains 1 resource, goes to 7, and then she will draw. Drawn to the Flame. This would be tempting if I can get away from this High Priest of the King in Yellow, but we've also got big problems on our hands. Draw the top card of the encounter deck, then discover 2 clues at your location. Mythos phase, second doom on the agenda. Jacqueline draws. Dismal Curse, testing Will 3. If you have no remaining sanity, this test gets +2 difficulty, so we're testing it even. If you fail, take 2 damage. 4 instead if you have horror on you equal to greater than twice your sanity, which we do not. We actually have exactly twice our sanity on us, so we still have... So we're up 2. Well, we got big problems on her hands any way we look at it. So she's taking 2 damage, but she's up 2, and I think that is where she'll test. Cultist is reveal another token. If you fail, take a horror. A 0, so we're all clear on that. I almost wouldn't have minded failing that test just because I'm really starting to see the writing on the wall at this point. With that, though, we're into the investigation phase, and Jacqueline's got a disaster brewing on her hands, so let's start right here at her play area. Jacqueline's going to take, for her first action, Jacqueline is going to take an attack of opportunity to spend 3 resources to play, where is it? Her enchanted bow. We saw this earlier. And now that blood rights, or now that the occult lexicon's gone, Mandy she didn't have horror greater than twice her sanity. Okay. So that's all done there. We need 3 charges for that. Although I think action 2 is probably going to be to exhaust it and target... Actually, do we even want to attack at this point, or are we just at a point where we're like, this is over at this point? You know what? We might as well. We might as well try to fight it out. So she's going to spend her second action to target the praying Bayaki. So she's at a 6 to a 5, and I'm going to throw... Actually, I'm going to commit Drawn to the Flame to go up to 7, and I'm pulling 3 tokens out of the bag. One, two, 3. First up, a 0. A skull, and another skull. So once again, I'm going to cancel both skulls, which will deal 2 damage to the praying Bayaki. Then action 3 will take us over to the map. Action 3, we would take an attack of opportunity from the High Priest of the King in yellow, but we'll move up to Ruins of Carcosa. So we do take the attack, but we don't have a possession in hand still, somehow. And that keeps Visions in Your Mind Death from triggering as well. So that'll do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, the praying Bayaki and the King in yellow both move back over to the Palace of the King. We're not out of this yet, folks, but it's not looking very good at all. So we'll flip everything over. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Jacqueline gains 1 resource, goes up to 5, and then she draws. Drawn to the Flame, draw the top card of the encounter deck, then discover 2 clues at your location. We'll probably use that if we can get over to the Palace of the King without the Bayaki there. Mythos phase, 3rd Doom on the agenda. Jacqueline draws. Maddening Darkness, or Maddening Delusions, Surge. Revelation, if you have 1 or more hidden cards in your hand, take 1 horror, and we do. So that'll bring us up to 2 horror. It still surges, so we're far from out of the woods on that one. We have a lot of sanity stacked up on Jacqueline, so she will draw. Agent of the King. Pray most clues. Hunter. Forced. After Agent of the King attacks you, move 1 of your clues to Agent of the King. Forced. When you defeat Agent of the King, take control of all of its clues. Victory 1. 1 damage, 2 sanity on attack. We may have finally met our match, folks. So that brings us back to the investigation phase, and Jacqueline probably doesn't have a prayer of getting away from both of these enemies, but we have to try. So that'll bring us back down to her play area. Jacqueline's only chance right now is to try to, for action 1, she's got to evade the agent of the king. She's at even. That's got no agility icons on it. Not an action. I'm going to put her special ability behind it, though. So if I can evade that and take out the praying Bayaki, then I might still stand something of a chance. At least if I can get the... At least if I can get a Storm of Spirits, maybe. One, two, three. First up, a -1, then a -2, none of which are going to help her pass, and a 0. That one will. So Jacqueline's able to evade the agent of the king. Then for action 2, she is going to use the enchanted bow to take aim at the praying Bayaki. If this we're basically in desperation mode, so if this misses, then the scenario is just over here. It's just going to be over. So we're up only 1, and we can only pull 1 token. -2 says we fail that, so yeah, I think we're pretty much doomed at this point. So action 3, Jacqueline will try to evade the High Priest because why not? -2 means she fails. So I'll do it for the investigation phase. And this is going to be a pretty short but eventful enemy phase. So enemy phase, Jacqueline, the praying Bayaki will move over and make friends with Jacqueline, as will the king in yellow. Most importantly, the praying Bayaki will deal 2 damage, and that will be enough to defeat Jacqueline by damage as well. So that will bring her over here, and that will bring us back up top for scenario resolution. Let's go into scenario resolution.
If no resolution was reached, each investigator was defeated, check the campaign log. If you have more or equal conviction than doubt, go to resolution 4. If you have more doubt than conviction, go to resolution 5.
Alright, that will bring us, once I find my pen, so I can make notes in the campaign log. There we are. So we have more conviction than doubt, which will bring us to resolution 4.
Resolution 4. When you awaken, you are sitting in the Cour Gothique of Mont Saint-Michel's Abbey. No rain pelts the glass of the windows above, and you hear no thunder, nor the screeching of winged horrors overhead. Somehow you have escaped the island's certain doom. You creep to the door of the Abbey and open it with trepidation. A dazzling light sears your eyes, and you lift your hand to black the glare of 2 suns. You stand overlooking the lake of Holly. Black stars hang in the heavens above. Beyond, over leagues of tossing cloud waves, the towers of Carcosa rise behind the shattered moon. You've met with a terrible fate, haven't you? In your campaign log, record that the realm of Carcosa merged with our own, and Hastur rules over them both. Each investigator is driven insane. The investigators lose the campaign.
With as much sanity as we had stacked up on Jacqueline by this point, that surprises me not even a little bit. But that is the end of the fall campaign, and Hastur has proven to be too much for us. Later this afternoon, we'll have the campaign outro for the fall campaign. And then as far as what's coming up on the channel, Wednesday we're debuting Call to Adventure Epic Origins on the channel, And next week, we're going to have the last quarterfinal bout in the Greatest Boxer Tournament entitled Bout 2. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.